Hello, I'm Michael Borgelt, owner of 51 Blocks and the WP Help. Here today, I have the crazy optimizer as always, Abdul, and we have our newfound friend, friend of Abdul's is Khalid here. He is managing our HR processes over in Pakistan along with Abdul. And we thought actually today, instead of talking about optimization of a website, maybe talking a little bit more about how to build a team overseas. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about. So no fun, crazy optimization going on here that Abdul can show us how to do that. Not this time. This time we're going to cover a number of different things, just about things to look for in regards to culture, timing issues, work ethic, the type of language or communication. Like obviously I'm in America, they're overseas, so speaking English is very important for what we want. And those types of things are what we want to look for. So we're just going to kind of go down through those items. We're going to talk about them and just more roundtable it between the three of us. We're going to try to keep it to 30 minutes. So right now it's almost 4 p.m. here in the Mountain Standard Time here in Denver, Colorado. I think it's 3 a.m. Is that right?
Yeah.
3 a.m. in
Yeah.
Karachi. So it's 3 a.m. over there. Obviously, I'm living a little bit of our life and sleeping at nights, and these guys have to be up during the days. But I think it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say and how they've been successful in finding people to build our team. So I'll kind of talk a little bit about that, what we're looking for and how it's kind of worked through the process. So we've been looking to build a development team overseas from scratch. And let's first even talk about even the process of that. Like we didn't even mention it, but I think we should talk about the office and identifying that, because that builds credibility and things like that. So why don't you, Abdul, jump a little bit in there and talk about why we needed those things to get started to get interested candidates to come.
Okay. So thank you, Michael. So I think many people, yes, definitely, like they want to hire remote people, like who are not in an office, but definitely in different countries, maybe these remote working systems are much more mature. So people are more open to that. But in many countries like Pakistan and in different countries as well, people like, especially if you want to hire really good talent, it's always a good option to have an office because that feels more real to them. Because remote working is still like catching up here. But definitely, like because of the current scenario that we are in, unfortunately around the world, it has like kind of sped up. So now more people are like kind of looking to work remotely. So definitely that's a big good point as well. Like now much more talent is available for the remote pool. But I think for us it was very important because the new projects that we are taking on and the new platform that we're building, we wanted like really good talent, like really experienced developers who are already working with really good companies established here. So one reason for that, for having an office space, even though like I think it changed a little from our ethos because we were a remote first company, but I think we had to like shift it a little bit. Like as in business, you always have to show flexibility. So like we showed a little bit of flexibility. We went towards this office route. So get an office, establish a legal company here, get more legal registrations done. So then we can have and hire much more talent and much better talent at the right price. Because definitely for us, because we already are here, like me and Khalid. So for us, it's better as well because if we have an office and things like that, we hire on, I would say, the local prices and not the US prices, I would say, because definitely when people like kind of want to work remote, they want to work in dollars. But for us, it's much more competitive because we are hiring in local. So because as a local company here. So I think for us, it was more of a, because our requirements are much bigger. We are looking for a much bigger team than a normal agency might need, or normal smaller agency or even a medium-sized agency might need overseas. But for us, we had a much bigger requirement. So it made more sense for us to go through this route.
Yeah, I think that's a good point and something I should point out. I don't think I would ever even try to attempt this if I did not have a connection overseas, right? Somebody that I trusted, that I had worked with for a while, and then him bringing in Khalid, who's another person I've gotten to know over the last month and just beginning to trust him, let's just say. So is he still with us here, or did he?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, hopefully, do you want to tell him to jump back in here and see if that'll let him?
I think with this recent work from home stuff going on, everyone is home. So
yes.
We have much more pressure on the internet.
But I do think that actually brings up a good point, because you brought up, with coronavirus that's happening, we're seeing a lot more people, work from home. And in your culture, that now could become an opportunity for people that are looking to hire remotely, not having to incur the expenses that we did of hiring or getting an office, having to get the desks and the computers and all of that stuff, right? So maybe even hiring overseas now might allow for less overhead to get started, where that's why I did it originally. Now we've kind of come full circle. We used to have an office here in the States. We went to 100% remote. We used to be remote overseas. Now we're going to be in an office, right? So it's kind of all there together, right? So next, hope, I guess we'll just continue to go here. It's
Yeah.
the live recording here. So let's talk a little bit about culture and the culture differences and things you've seen in hiring people overseas versus, I mean, hiring the people there versus, obviously what you know about America and things like that. So.
Yeah, I think definitely culture is a big difference, and I think just to cover on that point where you mentioned like more people will be more open to coming remote, because definitely like countries like India and countries like Philippines, they are more into that kind of remote working because they have been there, have been doing that for much longer. So that you can find people much easier there who are willing to work remote, who are willing to like take the kind of a plans towards like, okay, we'll work for an agency in the US or in Canada or in UK remotely. I think it's changing quite rapidly in other countries as well, like in African countries, here in Pakistan as well, and different other many different countries. I think, but definitely culture does become a big point, because you have like every country is different. So like if we talk about Pakistan, it has a okay, Pakistan, India might have a very similar culture, but if you are looking to hire someone in Philippines, they might have a very different culture. But there are few basic differences, right? That you have to like, because I think it's always better to learn about whatever country you choose about. Like if you want to go into the Philippines and like hire some people there remotely, or if you want to go into some other like Pakistan, India, so it's always better to like know a little bit about the culture, because it is different. And for some reason, Khalid has a big K on his face. So this is Zoom. I think like they're also getting a
Oh,
bit of a bit of a load right now. So we can like
yes.
There we go.
kind of
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. So I
manage
think that's a good point. I definitely want Khalid to jump in here because I know he's worked with some bigger agencies or bigger companies actually in regards
Yeah.
to culture and things you've seen. Like why, like what do you look for in regards to culture of how, when you're hiring overseas for a company that's in the U.S. or things like that? What are some of the first things you look for?
Okay, so first of all, we have to build credibility there, because there are a lot of companies who claims to be they're working from US or from UK, but they're normal Pakistani companies. So first you have to really build that credibility, okay, that uh, we are operating internationally. And secondly, it's like the moment they heard about it's like international operations, they're like, what are the timings? So you tell them like, okay, it's not going to be the night timings. So we have adjusted our timings for the people we are hiring, right? So it's like a bridge between US timings and Pakistan timing. So it's like really flexible for them. And
I think that's the culture part, right? Like you have to kind of have this kind of a flexibility, that you have to kind of like, okay, some people like me and Khalid right now sitting here at 3 a.m., we are very comfortable working in US hours, but many people are not. Many people like say, okay, we have some other responsibilities, we have to do something else, so we cannot work complete US hours. So you have to have kind of a bridge there sometimes. But definitely if it's because for us, it's an office, right? So people have to come to an office. So that adds another layer of complexity for late timings. But if it's remote, then because we also get this, okay, if it's work from home, I'm open to these timings. So if it's work from home, like for a normal agency who will be hiring people remotely, people are more flexible to work on like let's say US timings, maybe pretty much 80% US timings, I would say.
Yeah, I think
and one
just real quick, Khalid, before I jump it back to you, is you mentioned credibility, right? I think the biggest thing we did, and we actually did it a little bit late in our interviewing situation, was actually have a Loom video or some sort of recording software that records wherever you're located. Let's say it's in the U.S. Record a video talking about, hey, we're looking forward to have those people interview with the company. You're excited, things like that. That increased our response rate significantly as soon as myself or Brittany created a video that said, hey, we're, this company, very excited to be interviewing. We're opening an office in Pakistan, in Karachi. all right, please, let us know if you have any questions, blah, 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 right? And then all of a sudden now the credibility of the company went up. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely. You have seen it yourself that once we had that video in place, a lot of so many the response got a lot better.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
that's,
there are a lot of scams that happen, right? So people are like, okay, what is it about? So now when they see someone, okay, someone who's actually there, or someone who's like, okay, this is a real company, they are there, they are in the US or UK, Canada, whatever country you're in. So it just helps with that. And I think just to again like clarify, like the route that we have taken is not the usual route that I would say. Like you said, like if you won't be doing that if it wasn't like we being here. But I think even for someone who wants to start, I think having people overseas definitely has some sort of a stigma attached to it. It is changing, but I think it is something that really gives you the edge if you're an agency owner, like to get those people, get much better talent at much better prices that are much more flexible as well. So it does help because you get a lot of good people. But that's the thing. Okay, finding those good people, I think we'll come to that because that's a big problem as well. When that many people that I talk to who have either tried remote working, like hiring people overseas, one of the biggest issues they have is like we tried it, it didn't work out. So I think that's like it's something that you have to even try out if you're in the US or somewhere and you hire people. You won't find the best guy. You might be lucky and you might find the best guy on the first hire, but sometimes you have to go through people.
yeah.
So I think that's the process that you have to follow overseas as well. But it does help, and it's not as like for us, we did a office, we did registrations, we did all that because that was a need. But I would say for a normal agency, it's like for them, it's they can start like in a day or two. Like if they want to hire someone, maybe in a week they'll have someone working for them without
Yeah.
any costs associated with that.
Yeah. And I think to you, like you mentioned, having people there, obviously or you mentioned somebody like hiring people and failing overseas. I don't know how many times I failed in America hiring people, but for some reason, as soon as I failed once overseas, it took me a long time to try to do it again, even though in America, I failed a number of times hiring people, right? It's not like the ratio should go significantly up higher just because you're hiring overseas of finding qualified people, right? So that's something to keep in your mind. If it doesn't work, like Abdul was not the first person I found for the position that I hired him for. The first guy did not work out, right? And then I tried it again, and luckily I was able to find him, who then found Khalid. And now I think as the team, we're able to now build this structure. They're able to do all the paperwork. They understand much more of the government stuff that needs to happen to keep it legit. I know people in the seven-figure agency, that group that I'm in, they fly over to the Philippines a lot, and they have their office set up where everybody comes into and doing things like that. So we've talked a little bit about culture. We've talked a little bit about the timing issues. Let's jump on to, like, for me, one of the requirements was, to have really good written English. Right now, I think it does depend on the person you're hiring for. We're hiring for a lot of developers. Those people, their English is not as good, right? But if you're hiring more for marketing positions, and Khalid, if you want to kind of take this and what you've seen, like it's night and day versus somebody that's hiring for a developer position versus hiring for an SEO or a paid search position.
Yes, because the moment when AQ told me that we are looking for developers and there's an English guy, I was like, oh my God, it is going to be a problem because our typical developers, they fail to communicate, like they aren't able to articulate in Urdu. How the hell I'm supposed to get them, good English? But then we worked out. So, but about the marketing people, yes, because they are from universities and they do spend a lot of time on presentations and dealing people and working in cultures where English is a normal English is the standard language. So yes.
So when you look at resumes, just because you kind of touched on it, because obviously you're going through that, what are some of the key things you're looking for if you're trying to hire somebody that has the English, and maybe some of the questions you're just, did we lose him again?
Something happened. The screen just flashed.
Yeah, I know. That was weird. Okay. Well, I guess that question was too hard for him to answer. So, one other thing I wrote down was internet speed. That's something that's very important, right? And We've actually talked about that, hiring people that have the correct internet. And you know, obviously Khalid's having issues today, which would be something normally would not be okay if I am going to remove him from the meeting right now. He will not be able to rejoin, so let's not do that. You know, obviously having quality internet speed is very important, but I think with the load that coronavirus is putting on everywhere in the United States, or in the world, I should say, that's the issue we're seeing. We've never had this issue with him before. So let's talk a little bit of, how about resumes that you look at, Abdul?
So I think, yeah, just expanding on the point of developers, definitely like developers internationally also known not to be great talkers, right? They're like, even if you get someone in the US, okay, the English would be good, but developers are generally known not to be the talkative type, right? So I think that happens here as well. And if you're in India as well, or Philippines, wherever you are. So there's one thing that, if definitely for a resume, if you can see, if you find someone who has already worked remotely or worked with an agency or worked with a company in the US or Canada or UK or any English-speaking country, there's a chance they will be better at speaking English, right? Because they've already had that experience. But normally, like Khalid said, if they're, especially from a marketing position, so if they are from any good university, so again, I think that comes back to the culture point, that you have to know a little bit about the country that you are hiding in. Okay, that, okay, what, like, so knowing, okay, what are the good universities? So you can see if you have someone coming in from a good university in Pakistan, you know, okay, their English would be good. Same goes for India, same goes for Philippines, that if there's something, if there's a better university there, so it always helps. So I think that's what I look for. And in a resume, I think for me, it's like, I'm not a resume guy, because normally HR like Khalid is the kind of guy who looks over resumes quite with a, like a, quite on like detailed. But for me, I like to meet people, I like to talk to people. So that just helps me get that impact a little bit. And I think, yep, I think Khalid is back with his cake.
Yeah. I think also the other thing that you guys have done a really good job is, it's not just you find one person and you hire that person. You guys have gone through a significant number of applicants to find like, talk to just the sheer numbers. How many people for, let's talk, let's just do in the developer world for like a PHP position, like a senior PHP position. How many people did we talk to before they interviewed with you? And then how many people interviewed with me, right? We probably, go ahead, I'll let you take that from there.
I think from my side, I think I think went through like hundreds of resumes easily. Like maybe for that one position, we went over like, I think 500 or 600 resumes. I went over them personally, like just giving it, okay, this person is good. And then we had Khalid call them, and we had a pre-screening questions. That's very important as well, having some sort of a pre-screening ready. So you know exactly, because sometimes what happens is you don't know what you're hiring for. I think fortunately we did. We knew, we had that plan ready, that okay, this is the person that we need. We had that ideal person kind of a thing, like a persona in marketing. We had that kind of a thing ready. Okay, this is the guy we need. So I think then we went through like over 500 resumes. We shortlisted them. I think we at least shortlisted around 150 to 200 people. Khalid had the job of then calling them all, getting over those pre-screening questions, and then I think I would have met at least 30 to 40 people easily. I think around 30 to 40 people easily. And then out of them, some of them met with you, the ones that I liked. So then we had, so that's why I think you would have noticed that the people who came to you were pretty much filtered. So they like, you didn't have to meet a lot of people. So I think that's one reason for that, was that we knew exactly what we need. I think that's what I feel, because I've been working in this industry like digital for like 15 years now. So there are a lot of people who say, okay, I tried hiring someone in India, I tried hiring someone in Pakistan or Philippines, Sri Lanka, wherever, it didn't work out. So if you ask them, like, what do you need? You know, I need a SEO guy, or I need a PHP developer, or I need a social media guy. Okay, what exactly do you need? That's the thing, right? I think you have to, if you're looking for someone, you need to know exactly what you're looking for. Otherwise, you'll always get someone who might be good, but not good for the role that you wanted them to be.
Right, right. And I think that's a good point. Like, how many times did you ask me for the requirements, and then you would then drill down in those requirements and say, hey, this, or and do we want this, or whatever. So it's almost like any data system, you put junk data in, you get junk data out, right? So if you put quality requirements in, you probably have a better chance of getting a quality person on the flip side, right? And that's kind of what we saw. I think that's what we saw. So one other thing I think we should talk about, which I think, you know, at first I was like, okay, why do we need another tool, right? Like, but you guys were very big and understanding in Pakistan that no, we have to use this tool called Rosie, right? Like that's the tool over there that everyone submits their information to. It gives you so much data. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think that's a good point, because definitely, like, again, coming down to the same point back, that you need to know where you're hiring, the country that you're hiring for. You need to know a little bit about that, because in every country there are freelancers, there are people who are already working remotely, who are already there, maybe on Upwork, maybe on different sites that are already there. And that's where normally most of the people look for. If they're looking for someone in overseas, they'll be looking at Upwork, freelancers, stuff like websites like that, which already have a lot of people there. Definitely, you going there, you have one advantage, that you're going to people who already know this remote working kind of a culture. They already know freelancing, things like that. But that definitely, like, you have a lot more potential there in each market, but they're not on these platforms. There are guys, girls working in regular jobs and regular companies here in any country that you want to go in. So there are local platforms in each country. Any country you go to, they have local platforms. Like Pakistan has Rosie.pk, Philippines has onlinejobs.ph, and some other platforms as well. Sri Lanka has some I've used. I cannot recall the name right now. India also has like Naukri and all that platforms there, which you can go. So I think most of the good people, the good talent is there. It's not on. I'm not saying Upwork isn't good or like freelancing isn't good, but I think if you can go a step even deeper into these local platforms, you get much better talent, and also at a much better price as well. Because most of these people, they're not into that mindset of, okay, we're working for a company, so we need to be paid in this amount, that amount. So I think they're much more flexible as well. They're much more, you can find much better people as well, and you get all the contact details. So that's why we are very strong. Okay, we need to use this local platform, LinkedIn, because that's when you're hiring people. Okay, LinkedIn seems to be good, but the problem is not everyone internationally has a very maintained LinkedIn account, or even their contact details there. So it's better to use these local platforms. And as you've seen, like I've shown you those platforms, like they have a wealth of data. And like if you can get, like, in a click, you can get so many people in certain cities, and you can then start talking to them. And that really helps in that. They're also more open, because like they aren't expecting a call from some other company in some other country. So that also gives you the edge when you're talking to them, and they're really motivated. So that's what we found. Like whenever we talk to them, okay, this is how the company is. We have this in the US and all that. So they're much more motivated to work as well. So these platforms do help, and they also show the candidate that you're going after, or the person, that you know the market. You know, like if you're there on Rosie, they know that you know what the industry is. You understand the market. You know these things. So definitely these local platforms like Rosie.pk for Pakistan, or any other platform, any other country, give you much better talent and a much better choice as well. Like if I wanted to, like I mentioned, for senior PHP, we went through 500 profiles. I couldn't have done that on Upwork or any other. I couldn't have got that many people with that particular skill set.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I also think something you hit on, and you kind of mentioned this, and I think Khalid did as well, is they're getting paid in dollars usually at Upwork, right? So
Yes.
but then when we're hiring them, rubies is right. That's right. That's what we're paying.
Yes.
Yeah. So as the dollar actually ends up getting stronger, I end up paying less for the development team, right? Because the dollar is getting stronger, but they're paid in rupees. So that kind of works in the favor of, as long as the dollar gets stronger, right? If it gets weaker, then obviously
I think that's the point. Like that's what I mentioned, right? That for us, a use case was very different to a normal agency, and for us, because we were hiring a much bigger team and we wanted kind of a very different type of a talent. So for us, we had this whole setup done, so we can like make use of this like economy of scale as well and all those things. But I think for a usual agency, like for them, I don't think they should like get into these complexities. I think for them, it's because I don't want to scare people off. Like, okay, we need a license and we need an office. Yeah. So I think I've worked remotely. Like when I started working with you, I think that was it was on a Slack group. We agreed and it just started, right? So I think it was a day or two because I think we discussed it, and after a day or two, I was there working for you. So I think that's already there. The market is already there in all these countries for you to find good people. And Slack,
Yeah.
I just remembered from that Slack, some Slack communities like online geniuses. They're also very good places if you're looking for a higher type of a talent where you locate the people who have already experienced, already know the industry, already know remote working. So these communities, Facebook groups also these days, like you find very good people there.
Yeah, and that's obviously a good spot to find people. It's just like we said before, though, it's filtering through all those people.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Khalid. We're glad to have you again. So, hey, one other thing I want to talk about, and this will be more directed towards you, is the pre-screening, right? That happens. What you're looking for behind the questions, almost sometimes, right? So you may ask a question, but you're looking. What are you looking for when you ask some of those questions?
To be honest, I think any recruiter will tell you that when you're recruiting from a long time, you develop that intrinsic skill. So whenever you see a CV, or when you are talking to a person, you have that in you that this is the right person or not. For example, when I know the criteria, you said, okay, communication skills and technical skills, and ABC, the what criteria is. And the moment I'm seeing the CV, for example, the Sakib guy and the few more people they got hired. Uh, when I was seeing their CV, I had that in me that, okay, yes, I think they are the right people. For example, you have to see, because if he's going to be working for American company, the way he has designed his CV, how he has articulated his skill set, how concise, how concretely he is able to articulate, and how creatively he is able to impress a recruiter who only spends like 20 seconds or maximum 30 seconds
Mm-hmm.
based on the first impression. And
Yep.
the moment you call the candidate and you're saying, hello, my name is Khalid Mustafa and I'm calling from 51 Blocks HR department, how are you? It's like that. It's a feeling which I cannot describe you, but every recruiter feels it. It's like an intrinsic skill which you build on after working, uh, after spending few years in recruit on
Yeah.
recruit.
No, yeah, and I think that's why it's very helpful to have you as part of our team trying to find these qualified people. Yeah, so we're running out of time. We have 8 minutes left, right? So is there anything else? I'll give the final word to each of you guys. Yeah, go ahead, Khalid. Why don't you go ahead and chime in?
Yes. So one important element when you are looking from South Asian countries, and if you're a foreign country, that the crime rate in Pakistan is like it's a problem for people. So working for late hours, for like after 12-hour timing, after time, it's a problem for them. We had a really good candidate by name Abdul Samad. We were hiring him for HCO. His family were concerned that even though it's a good opportunity, he was really sorry. He said, okay, because of you understand the crime situation in our city. So that's a thing you have to keep in mind, that when you're looking for an office, make sure you're going for a prime area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but again, like I think that's the thing, right? If you're a normal agency, you're looking for people remotely. So that's like I think when you're looking for people to work from home, these problems go away. So you are much more open to better talent. Because for us, it
Yes.
was office, so we wanted to bring people in the office. But if that's not the case, sometimes like if an agency owner they want to hire someone in any country, and because most probably they'll be working from home, so that gives them a much better pool. I'd like to just add one thing, like looking for people when you're looking for people, which I think because I've worked in remote teams for a long time, I've hired remote people, so I think the biggest thing that someone should look for if you're hiring for someone to work from home or remotely is what I think we call it the manager of one kind of a ethic of work. Like, can they self-organize? Because when you have to, when someone has to work remotely, they're not in front of you. You cannot like have that body language kind of communication. So they and not a lot of kind of an office environment communication. So they need to be a manager of one, right? They have to be their own manager. They have to know themselves. Okay, what's my work day? What are my priorities? What am I getting done? So more of like we call it self-organizing. So no, you don't have to like kind of micromanage them, because if you are having to micromanage someone, you've made a wrong decision in that sense, and you've not hired the right person, because micromanagement in remote work from home environments never works. So you need to find someone who's more self-organizing. And I think when you talk to them, uh, there are some, because when you talk to them, like Khalid said, you'll feel that kind of a thing if they're self-organizing, if they're like, they want to take charge of their day, they want to take charge of their role. So that gives you some, okay, these guys are self-organizing and they'll make sure that they get their work done and not having you to micromanage them.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And obviously, if you're building it without somebody there, having somebody that's can self-organize is going to be key, especially as you try to build out that team in that area or wherever it may be. Because if it works out with one person, you're probably trying to expand that person's network to get more people in. Kind of what we're doing in Karachi with a physical office. You may want to try to do with a remote office as well. Well, really appreciate Mr. Khalid coming on with his internet issues today. It's no problem. We understand that, obviously everything that's going on with coronavirus is putting an additional load on the on the interwebs these days. So, I appreciate you coming in, the Crazy Optimizer, talking about something other than optimizing websites. And, I'm Michael Borgelt from 51 Blocks and the WP Help, and we give websites hope. And hopefully today we gave you guys a little bit of hope of hiring overseas. So if you have any questions, we're definitely here. Let us know, and we'll talk to you next time.